How to find anticipation setups. Let's have a look at some of the anticipation setups. In order to find an anticipation setups, you have to first find a stock which has got an established momentum. The stock has an established momentum, and then it is going sideways and setting up. So you have to start with a list of stocks which have established momentum, and then look for something which has got a narrow range day, or it's not up much. This stock is up like 0.56%. So I typically look for something which is like up or down 1%. Sometimes I'll also look at something which is more than 1% depending on how volatile the stock is. But basically you're looking for a continuation kind of a setup. Sometimes like, and if they go on long sideways like this, then you have to, it's better you have to wait for a breakout, because the momentum is just going sideways. So let's have a look at some of these 23 stocks which are showing up. And just because the market is in correction doesn't mean you stop looking at your anticipation setup, because the anticipation setup work best when the market is coming out of correction. Now you have this airy, see, these are some of the things which are young trends, in the sense if they get going, they put in the bottom and then the trend has just started. So if you're looking for a longer term swing trades, then you have to look at younger trends, because if you get in and then you can hold it for a couple of things. Sometimes those can also break down. Then you have similarly, and again you'll see sector like an oil and gas sector, a lot of these oil and gas sector stocks which are recently putting in like bottom and rallying. So this is the kind of setup which you're looking for, or like say this is an ideal kind of an anticipation setup here. 3 days it had a pullback. This was a narrow range day, like 1.66%, and then it went up. And if you see this particular move is around 31%. So RBA again, similarly, like if you see here, anticipation setup from here, it made a move up around 8%, not a big move. Catalent, sometimes like if they go sideways, you have to check the news. If there is a buyout or a takeout, also they can keep going sideways. Then you have WMB. You'll see oil and gas stocks, a lot of them showing up in anticipation setup for the obvious reason that they're bouncing back. And if you see the sector thing videos which I put in last 2 days, the oil and gas sector is one of the sectors which has bounced back from the bottom. So this is a very nice setup. See, 0.07. Then you have Herman Miller, which is recent earnings, like stock is near 52-week high. In fact, and a stock is setting up for a possible big move if it breaks out of this level. So that's like a longer term kind of a setup if it works, if it breaks out. Phillips Van Hussein again setting up very nicely, like here. This is the first leg of the move. Couple of times it set up here, like, and this was basically around 18% move, and here now it is setting up, and if you see like 0.043. So when the market is selling off, these stocks are resisting the selling and they are just going sideways. Sometimes like if the market is going to go down a lot, then even the stocks which are holding up, they also at some stage just start getting taken down. But at the moment we are seeing not much of a selling pressure. So if you see like here again, stock is setting up very nicely, like see 0% move here and gone sideways for almost 8 or 9 days. Island of Capri is another one. APG Corporation. Now see again, very nice setup. See 0.072. This is the first leg of the move. Sometimes, like most of the time, the move will be triggered by something, earnings or whatever, and then like it is going sideways. Then you have EUQ. As I said, like this is down 2.57%, but in the context of a setup where it is having an orderly pullback, I just kept it because that's a nice setup. Then you have Brookdale Senior Living again, like say stock has like had a big down move and then possibly bottomed and is trying to recover here, like, and I made a orderly move, and here from here the stock is almost like up 46%, so it's setting up for possible move. NMIH, now this is a very nice setup. See 0.0437% bounce back, and there must be some catalyst. Talmor Bancorp, another very nice setup. This is the kind of setup which I like, because these can like really take off, and they have very nice compact action. So that's like the kind of setup to look for. Then you have Legacy Texas Financial Corporation, again bouncing back and now having a minor pullback. So these are called, many times these are also called throwback moves. AGP, Another one, see, commodities are doing well, like the beaten down sectors are doing well. So you have to look at what is working currently and have your list in that. LGIH, now the home builders are not doing well, or they're like, we're sold out, but like this particular stock had this big move, and then it's going sideways, setting up very nicely. Like this is very nice setup in terms of like if it breaks out, that's a very nice setup. Again, like the sector might be a issue in some cases. CSGS again, see, and sometimes like they set up, like say here this is a setup, and in one day it went up 8%, and then like you got like whacked. So stocks which are like not very linear moves, which are tend to jump over all over the place, it's better to avoid them sometimes if you see too much of this thing. Now it's like it looks more smooth here again, like as a anticipation setup and 10% move. So yeah, EEP, another one of those which is like the oil and gas sector, because that's the sector which is hot currently. Zeltic, aesthetic, which is bounce back. Then you have Endologics, medical instrument and supplies. Again, that's a very nice setup. Then FedEx, which had a big earnings here and announced a big buyback. It's just going sideways. It's a large stock. So those are some of the good setups which are setting up, 23 setups which are setting up for possible breakout. And you always have to do your work every day, irrespective whether the market is down. And then one or two setups, if they work, that can make up for a week, or that can make up a month. And I have previously done videos showing how to do this, and I will also be putting up videos which will show how to do this yourself, because I see like an IBD and all. I have started service for swing trading, and like see, basically if you do your own work and you set up your own scan, you should be able to find the same setups yourself, because there's no magical ingredient to swing trading. It's been around for 100 years, and most of them are very simple ideas in terms of like basically finding a point from which a stock is likely to break out. Say like you have a setup which is like this. A stock sets up like this, you can always, it will come in your scan and it will be in your anticipation setup list. Why? Because you're doing the work every day, and then it breaks out and then it makes a 33% move. So it will show up like if you do your work, and you don't need anybody to tell you that how to find those kind of setups, or like say a setup like this will show up in your setup list. Why? Because it's like it meets all the definition of your anticipation setups, and then it breaks out and then it makes a move of 15% in few days. So you can always find the same setups, is what is my message. Do your own cooking and eat your own food, rather than go in for say something which is mystical, how they find and all. There is no super secrets in this business. It's all like most of the stuff which is swing trading related has been around for a long time. It might be like you will like say you take up a stock like this and draw a trend line and say, okay, if it breaks, those kind of setups you will see a dime a dozen, or like those kind of approaches are dime a dozen, and they work if you are looking for a shorter term trade basically, and not like really holding it for a longer term. In order to find a longer term trend, you have to find a longer term setup. Like say something like this is an example of a longer term setup, where if a stock breaks out of this huge range, it might make a multi-month kind of a move. But like say if you're just trading something which is like just for the bounce here, it may not be the kind of position trade which you're looking for here. It's just like you're looking for, say, stock going and making a move of around 10% and going to 20, because that's not a setup which is like a longer term kind of a setup. As against that, this FedEx might be a longer term kind of a setup, because if it breaks out of from this thing, it can, like, and I see here like there's a consolidation 185, and if it gets out of this, then it can continue to make a big move. So you can use this anticipation for finding swing trade, as well as for doing finding longer term position trade. In order to find a longer term position trade, you always need to find a setup which is a longer term structural kind of a setup, and not a short term kind of a setup. Like all these are like, many of these are short term kind of a setup, like, but say this might be a longer term kind of a setup if it works. You don't know whether it will work, but like, so that's really the key to doing anticipation. And I would say that look, develop your own anticipation method, and work on it. It will take some time, it will take some month, and then do your own cooking and eat your own food rather than going and buying some service which tells you when to buy. Because if there is a service and which claims to make 4% with a 2% stop, by the time you get in, it will be like an just 1% lag in terms of like your transaction cost or like your ability to get in, because after the alert comes in, so many people will try and get into that. So you're basically like kind of looking at instead of a 4% profit, you're looking for a 3% profit, and same thing will happen at the exit because everybody will be exiting, so you lose another 2%, so you're looking at 2%, so the risk reward will not help you. So that's really what you need to think through. And always remember, in trading it's always better to be self-sufficient and do your own things and learn methods rather than ready-made picks.